Lovelace is a biopic based on the life of 70s sensation and adult film star Linda Lovelace / Linda Borman, which was her real name. I say it's based on the life because it is a biopic, but it does the thing that a lot of biopics don't do, and I kind of wish more biopics would do this. Instead of covering her whole life, it kind of just looks at a small window. I think the film covers between 8 to 10 years in the life of Linda Borman / Lovelace, and for that, it works for the most part. As you're probably aware, the title role is played by Amanda Seyfried, which is just one example of some really inspired casting in this film. Amanda Seyfried has always been someone I've been on the fence with. I've never particularly liked her performances, but then she's never really done anything for me to dislike. She's kind of just been there, but her presence resonates much more with this film, and she's kind of opened my eyes to the fact that she can actually do more than she has in the past, because she does bring quite a lot to this film. As I said just before, the film concentrates on a smallish window. I think it starts in 1970, when Linda first moves to Florida with her parents. Linda Borman, when we're first introduced to her, is young. She is still somewhat naive. She still has a lot of hopeful optimism. She has a lot of spirit. She's very bubbly, and she's very likeable, and there's a real sort of charm to her. However, this likability is somewhat stifled by her home life. She lives at home with her parents, her father, played by Robert Patrick, who most people will probably know as the T-1000, except he's not turning into metal and killing people here. He's actually a really sort of grounded, down-to-earth, and at times really sort of emotionally resonant father, in one scene in particular when he has a conversation on the telephone with his daughter. And she also lives at home with her mother, who is really sort of uptight, staunch matriarch type, who really enforces this sort of religious belief in this a woman should be a dutiful wife kind of regime. Her mother's played by Sharon Stone. I didn't realise watching the film that she's played by Sharon Stone, because she's so unrecognisable. And if anything from this film occurs, it could be a real sort of revitalised boost to Sharon Stone's career, because she puts in a hell of a performance, and the fact that I didn't recognise her at all really shows how much she's embodied herself in the character. But the main character on display, of course, is Linda Lovelace, who, as I said, we meet at a very young age. We meet when she is all naive and spring chicken-like, and full of the joys and wonders of youth. That is until her life begins to spiral downwards after she initially meets Chuck Trainer, played here by Peter Sarsgaard, who is kind of not a stranger to creepy and strange and icky kind of roles, but really, again, it's another bit of inspired casting for this film. He really excels at this, and at times he really is skin-crawling and horrible, and you actually do find yourself really, really being somewhat repulsed by his character. But initially he starts off really charismatic and charming, and this is the person that Linda falls in love with. However, as time begins to fade, so does the mirage of this charming, wonderful young man, and the true nature of Chuck Trainer comes out as this really horrible, repulsive, greedy, nasty, abusive man who will use Linda at any given opportunity to excel himself, to find success, or even to just pay back money he owes. And it is through this that she finds herself in the adult film industry, and of course, starring in that infamous film. What's really quite interesting about this film, and it's something that a lot of people will find jarring, and I can understand, but I think the way that it actually pieced it together worked incredibly well, is that it operates on two tones. And it does this via the way that the film is structured. The first half of the film is kind of frothy, and it's kind of funny in places, strangely enough, and it's kind of light-hearted, and it's kind of like a soft, light-hearted, glamorous look at the making of Deep Throat, the story of Linda Lovelace, the 70s adult film sensation, and the adult film industry itself. It also really plays out as if it's trying to capture the public's perception of everything that happened at that time, of how the film came about, the film's reaction, and of course the public's perception and public persona of Linda Lovelace. However, the film kind of spins itself on its head a little bit, and this is where it becomes jarring to some, and I can understand why, as I said before. But basically the film rewinds itself, and it plays through a lot of the same scenes that it's done in the first half, except from a different perspective. It comes across as from Linda's perspective. And this is where it gets a lot grittier, a lot darker, a lot nastier, and a lot harder to watch, but also you get more of the dramatic weight to the performances, particularly from Siegfried, who up until that point has kind of played into the sort of lighter tone of the film's first half. Playing the public's perception against the private person's encounter is a tricky move, and it's a risky one, but for the most part it works. At least for me, I enjoyed the fact that it did it because I didn't see it coming, and it kind of took me by surprise and swept me sideways a little bit, and I was a little bit taken aback by its approach, but it's one that works. Now, I don't know which side has more truth to it. I guess only Linda Borman and those involved in the actual time and the occurrences in the story will ever really know which side of the story holds more truth to it, but from a dramatic narrative storytelling point of view, it works incredibly well, and it provides a refreshing change in a film, and the way that the tone shifts completely is just, it's really, really quite inspiring. The only main issues I had with the film is that sometimes it can't seem to escape its TV movie trappings. It does often feel and look, even though stylistically it goes for a 70s look, which actually really kind of works with the film, and I think it's an interesting choice. One that works for the most part. It does also look a little bit like a TV movie, and it kind of can be a little bit hard to escape from that. The other thing is that, although I'm pleased it concentrates on a smaller time frame and a smaller window of Linda's life, if you know anything about her life, or you do any reading up before or after the film, you'll know that there was a lot more to the woman, not only just before Deep Throat, in which things get really dark and really kind of insidious and sinister, but also the aftermath of her notoriety. And granted, this is where complications come into play, but it is also really interesting, and I think it could have added more to the film's ending than the actual ending that we get, which is a little bit too neatly wrapped up. I actually would have preferred an extended film with maybe some more of these elements thrown in, but what we get is actually surprisingly good. I didn't really have any expectations for this at all, but I came out really liking it, and I think it's fueled mainly by an interesting structure and some really fantastic performances and some really inspired casting. It's going to be interesting to see how it compares to the other Lovelace film, which is coming out sometime in the future, Inferno, which I believe stars Malin Akerman as the title role. But as far as biopics go, this is actually really quite crisp and tight and gripping in places. It could have gone further, it could have gone darker, it could have gone deeper, and it could have had more to it. But for the most part, it's actually really good. I'm going to give it a 7.5.